What up, everybody? It's your boy Sack the King up in this motherfucking man, back with another video. As y'all can see from the thumbnail entitled, Teen Stabbed and Killed at Track Meet. Senseless crime, senseless act of violence, or hate crime. Self-defense or act of violence, okay? Hit that subscribe button below so you can be the first to know and help the channel grow. Now, normally I don't make videos like this. I do talk about stuff that's in the news, but most of these are like major events that everybody's talking about. But this came up in my Facebook feed, and it seemed like once I started reading comments and stuff, and I actually clicked on the article, a whole bunch of I was flooded with these same articles from different outlets on Facebook. You know how you can go through and it'll give you the option to follow or just X out of it. Bro, this story has been flooded all over my Facebook, okay? And it gives me mixed emotions because, to the naked eye, one might think, okay, this is a senseless act of violence. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this is an isolated incident. But when you get online, you start seeing differently, and you start seeing the division and where the mind frame is in America when it comes to these types of situations. Now, if you are not, familiar with this, as I wasn't until I looked on here, had I just scrolled over and not seen any of the comments and interacted in any of that shit, I probably wouldn't have seen more and more and more, but it's constantly in my feed. You feel me? Even pages that don't have anything to do with this type of sport or situation was posting this, and it made me think, like, are these folks behind these pages white people trying to race bait people? Okay. So let's get into the story. Unfortunately, there was an altercation at Frisco Memorial High School at a track event at 10 a.m. in the morning, okay? This is in a suburb of Dallas, Texas. 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, who also has a twin brother named Hunter, who is a junior at that high school, 17 years old, was stabbed to death by another student, Carmelo Anthony, 17, also a student at the high school, but he's a senior. The difference between these two is Austin Metcalf is white, and he is the victim, and Carmelo Anthony is black, and he is the person who committed this act of violence, okay? I've read so many of these comments, and the first things that stuck out to me that white people are in here screaming is hate crime, hate crime, hate crime, and ghetto and thug and all this other stuff rolled up in the same, in all of their comments. That seems to be the three things that I notice white people saying in these comments, okay? Anytime that a black person does something, good or bad, it's going to come with negativity from white people, unfortunately, online, especially in America. Most of these people that are making these comments probably would never say any of the racial things that they are saying to anybody in their face. I don't understand why people continue to get online and start just blabbing off at the mouth when they got where they live at, their place of business, and all this other personal information that somebody could easily track them down and confront them about. But hey, that's America for you. This is one of the reasons why I moved out of the country, okay? My thing is I noticed that people don't understand what is a hate crime and what is a senseless act of violence, okay? A senseless act of violence, I should say. This, to me, was a senseless act of violence. This, to me, was an isolated incident that that shouldn't have happened at all, but probably stemmed from, who knows what it stemmed from. It was senseless. It shouldn't have happened, okay? But to say that this is a hate crime and he only did it because the kid was white and all this other shit is corny and it's clownish, and obviously the term black on black crime doesn't exist if that's the case, right? Now, according to news reports only coming from the parent of the victim, they said that this happened because the white kid, Austin Metcalf, told asked politely, which I've read in some newspaper articles, asked the other kid, Carmelo Anthony, politely if he could move out of his space on the track meet. And then, according to the parents, the kid went and retrieved a knife and came back and just stabbed this guy in the heart. And he was left there to bleed while his twin brother Hunter was holding him. Now, that is horrible. That is horrible. Those are some of this are facts. He was stabbed. He probably was held by his brother and he died. Those are facts that you cannot deny, okay? And this person is responsible for his murder, according to witnesses. Those are facts that you can't deny. But I'm seeing so many people on here saying, oh, he did this on purpose because the kid was black or because the kid was white. Oh, and they're spinning the narrative when when we're just hearing one side of a story from a parent who's still grieving. And of course, they're going to give the version that least has their kid being having any kind of complacency in this. Okay. And I say that because as I'm looking through these articles, right, and I'm seeing the ones that are actually from that area, I noticed that there's people both black and white who are in the comments checking other people and saying, first of all, we were there. The other kid was the aggressor. The kid that got stabbed, Austin Metcalf, was the aggressor to this kid, and he didn't ask the kid politely to move. He actually physically assaulted this kid. Now, some accounts vary that he pushed the kid. Some people saying that he punched the kid. Depending on where you were watching this, a push could look like a punch and a punch could look like a push. You know what I'm saying? But there's both white and black people. It's not just black people. There's both white and black people that were there in these comments. And I'm clicking on some of these pages too. And I'm showing that they're living right there in that area. You know what I mean? And they're, I'm not going to say debunking, but they are contradicting the initial report from the news media coming from the parents of the victim, okay? So then you have all these people in these comments making so many racial comments, okay, that they would never say to nobody's face because they're hiding behind fucking fake ass pages, or they're hiding behind private fucking pages, or they just feel so entitled that they can just say racist stuff without any consequence, which is why people do that shit, because 9 out of 10 times nothing happens to them, okay? But like I said, there's people that were actually there, according to a lot of these comments, that are having the same story, that are saying that kid, Austin Metcalf, aggressively went after this kid, Carmelo Anthony. Now, did Carmelo Anthony, should he have went and retrieved the knife and came back and stabbed this kid? No, this is a senseless crime. You know what I'm saying? But does he have the right to defend himself? Yes. Now, there's a thin line between defending yourself and, first-degree murder. You know what I'm saying? There's a thin line between self-defense and first-degree murder. And that's the moment in between where you had the opportunity to just walk away or something and you went back and retrieved a weapon, okay? These kids are 17 years old, okay? They are athletes. So a lot of adrenaline is pumping. A lot of testosterone is going on. And for us to sit here and say, make racial comments based on this incident is kind of dumb. This is a case of crime and punishment. Somebody committed a crime and they were arrested for it. You know what I'm saying? I see people in there saying, why don't you list what race the kid was in the article? Why don't you list his name and all this other stuff? Well, Google, you can easily Google like I did. I found the picture, I found the name, I found all the information, okay? From the parents' side and what the news media is reporting. But like I said, the internet will solve some crimes for you, as we all know, before the fucking police or the news media. And like I said, I went to specific pages in this area from the local news, and I seen people from that local area who were there who were contradicting the initial news report, making it seem like this kid was just so innocent in this situation and that he didn't have anything to do with his own death, or he didn't provoke his own death, okay? Again, I'm not condoning none of this. It's a senseless crime. no matter if Metcalf stabbed Anthony or if Anthony stabbed Metcalf. It is a senseless ass crime and it shouldn't have happened, okay? It shouldn't have happened, okay? But for y'all to get on here and talk about black people, oh, this guy's a thug, oh, this guy is ghetto. He goes to the same high school in the suburbs as this white kid. Why aren't these words used when white people commit crimes against black people or in general? Why don't we ever hear white people being referred to as ghetto or thugs or anything like that is what I want to know. Okay, let's play devil's advocate for a second. Okay, let's just say that some of these comments that I read are true and that this kid was the aggressor. Okay, who's to say that these two didn't have a problem with each other prior to this? Who's to say that this kid, Carmelo Anthony, wasn't being bullied by other kids, to include Hunter and Austin Metcalf, at that same suburban school, and he felt like he needed to have a knife for protection? Now, again, does that give him a reason to go and retrieve a knife and come back and stab somebody? No, this is a senseless crime. And that's what my point is that we need to determine and understand the difference between a hate crime and a senseless crime. Okay, there's no proof saying that this kid was stabbed because of his race. Okay, for all we know, he was stabbed at a race, but it wasn't because of his race. Okay, that's just the conclusion that white people want to draw because this kid is black. I want to know if this was a white kid stabbing another white kid, would the terms ghetto and thug be used at all? I highly doubt it, bro. I highly doubt it. When these white kids go and shoot up schools, you never hear them get called thugs. You never hear them get called ghetto. You always hear excuses of, oh, maybe he was bullied. Maybe he comes from a bad home and it's his parents. And bro, we got to have it all on the same. It's got to be even. But we know that in America, it will never be even for black people. It will never be even playing field for black people as long as I've been alive. Hopefully that changes in the future. But, you know, you're already at a disadvantage. Luckily, in America is one of those countries where there's no excuse. Even if you were born with a disadvantage, you can rise and create and make yourself into something. That is the good thing about America, okay? That is one great thing about America, despite all the bad things about America and despite all these people that scream, make America great again, and we're so Christian, but you see them in the comments making so many racial and hateful ass statements anytime something occurs between black and white people, okay? Which is crazy to me. Like I said, let's play devil's advocate. Who's to say that this kid, you know, didn't feel like he needed to, you know, protect himself, which is the reason why he had a knife? And who's to say that these two didn't already have problems and, you know, it just came to a boiling point where, unfortunately, a teenage kid who's only a junior in high school, still got the whole life ahead of him, lost his life, and now another kid who's a senior in high school on his way out, you feel me, is about to lose his life because, you know, the state of Texas does not play when it comes to black people or crime, period. And this case has reached so much fucking exposure nationwide, not just locally, that I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make an example out of this kid, this young man. You know, and some would say as they should. You know, nobody told you to go retrieve a knife, but, you know, I want to know more to this story. I've read comments, like I said, from people that were actually there. And like I said, I went and did some investigation myself and clicked on their pages to see if this motherfucker ain't just commenting from somewhere in Connecticut, just talking shit online. No, these people really. And then when I look at it on the map, I'm like, oh, you stay like 2 miles away from this fucking high school. You might be onto something. You know what I mean? So like I said, the internet will solve a crime before the police do, and they'll have more information online before even the news outlets. We all seen this. Every time a rapper gets shot, who solves the crime first? The internet. You feel me? So, you know, but in the end of things, a crime happened and there's going to be some punishment for it. And it's a senseless act of violence to me. You know, it's not a hate crime. We have no proof that this was racially motivated. Okay. That's just the narrative that white people are spinning online, and it's sickening to watch. You know what I mean? Because where was this energy when Kyle Rittenhouse was walking around shooting up people? Oh, it was okay because those were Black Lives Matters, protesters. It was okay then. White people didn't have no problem. It was okay when that dude put his neck on George Floyd, or his knee on George Floyd, until he fucking died because he was a white cop, right? And it was against a black man. But had the roles been reversed, these same white folks would be so outraged. Had it been a white protest and a black person drove from a whole nother state like Kyle Rittenhouse and shot up some white people, hey man, y'all would have a whole different, y'all would be calling us all kind of ghetto shit and thugs and hang him and all this other bullshit. You feel me? So y'all got to take a real hard look at yourselves when, it comes to race relations, when it comes to stories like this, and not take everything for face value, because you might just end up looking stupid later on when some more details come out. And then who's to say next week we don't find out that this kid and his twin brother were bullying this kid the whole time? Then I guarantee you half of those people will still make the same excuses and still not want to hear none of that. You know what I mean? Which does not constitute for a person losing their life. Let me reiterate that, okay? But it just goes to show you how all these hypocrites talking about making America great again, you know what I'm saying? And how this country's so great and how y'all so Christian, especially in a state like Texas, which is in the Bible Belt, right? But you get online and you make so many racist ass comments and hateful ass comments that I guarantee y'all would not say to no black people unless you had your fucking weapon on you as well, okay? Just something to think about. What do y'all think, man? Hit that subscribe button below so you can be the first to know and help the channel grow. I'm sorry that this young man happened to lose his life, Austin Metcalf. Rest in peace. And also, if this guy was such a thug and so ghetto and everything, how did he become a senior in high school, almost about to graduate? Usually aren't ghetto thugs the ones that drop out and don't finish school? Like, y'all make up y'all's mind. Anyways, man, hit that subscribe button below so you can be the first to know and help the channel grow. I got some more videos coming. Stay tuned. King.